Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk about magicians and sorcery. And you might think it's silly, you might think the idea of magic is silly. But did you know the etymology of the word gospel is good spell? So you have bad spells and you have good spells. And the gospel of Jesus Christ is the good spell. It is the spells that create freedom for you and for your family. And spells are bad spells, magician spells. And in this video, I'm going to get into Fantasia. A few years ago, I was watching the movie Fantasia, and it's an old Disney movie. There's a great scene. It's called The Sorcerer's Apprentice, where Mickey Mouse doesn't want to do the work. He doesn't want to get the water. So he casts a spell on brooms. And the brooms go and get the water, and they fill up, and they keep filling up. They go and fetch the water, and eventually Mickey Mouse drowns in the spell of his creation. And I thought about this for a while, and I was like, this is like politicians. This is like wordsmiths in this world. They convince people to do things. They use magic to do it. And once it's over, the magician has no control over his spells, and he eventually fades away. Think about every politician that lives to be 90, 100. How many of them go to their death being respected? You know, the spells they use to get their power eventually fade away. And so I was thinking about this Fantasia movie, and I looked it up, and sure enough, that Fantasia scene where Mickey goes and gets his brooms, it's based on a poem from Germany in the 17th century. And in this poem, it's called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. And it was a critique on politicians. It was a critique on power. You use your words, you cast a spell onto the people, they do your bidding, but once you cast that spell, once you enrage a population to do something you want them to do, you don't have any control over that spell once you cast it, and eventually the spells come to destroy you. And the whole reason I'm making this video, a week or two ago, my wife was reading in Exodus, and she said, did you know the magicians, the sorcerers in Egypt, they had the ability to cast frogs upon the land, but they did not have the ability to remove the frogs. And the Pharaoh had to plead and beg and ask Moses to remove the frogs. He did not have the authority from God to remove the frogs, but he did have the ability to bring the frogs. And so this idea of sorcery is as old as Exodus. And I think people would do well to understand that there still is magic out there. There still is bad spells out there. And you can see it. I don't want to get into super clear politics, but you can see a politician casting spells on his audience. You know, I see it all the time. A politician will be getting pushback because he's not serving the needs of the people. And what does he do? He makes a joke. He makes light of something irrelevant to what he's getting in trouble for. He makes a joke. He makes a sacrilegious joke or whatever, or he attacks the others. And they say, oh, look at this. And then his followers are like, those others are attacking our boy. We're gonna go to bat for him. And eventually it stops working. And your people that follow you eventually realize, wait, I'm carrying this broom. I'm carrying this bucket of water. I'm just being a broom. Okay, let's read this verse in Egypt where the Pharaoh's pleading with the covenant people of Israel to get rid of the frogs. And the magicians did so with their enchantments and brought up the frogs upon the land. And then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me. So the Pharaoh's like, please, please, please call upon your Lord and get the frogs out of here. And it's like, no, that's not the way it works, you know? So I hope I've explained to you. Go and watch Fantasia, okay? Walt Disney was a good guy. He made some great movies. Go watch Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a Jesus figure. That Sorcerer's Apprentice is telling you to beware of pulling tricks on people. Beware of casting spells. You know, the gospel is the good spell. And it's so funny. Every single person I've met that has a problem with Jesus Christ, you know, there's a big thing, lions, not sheep. I don't want to be a sheep. And it's like, there's only two people in this world. There's sheep and there's brooms. There's just brain dead brooms that are doing the will and advancing the career of some guy out there casting spells on their brains, okay? So in my life, I want to be a sheep. And you know, I have a YouTube channel, I'm having fun, I'm being a jester. I don't want to cast, I don't ever want to get someone to do something that's not in their best interests, you know? And I feel like, what is a spell? You know, today we don't really have magicians bringing frogs into this world, but we have magicians on our TV. We have magician YouTubers getting people riled up about nonsense, about church memos from 30 years ago, okay? We have magicians that are getting influence and they're gaining attention. They're getting all their followers to get the water, to bring the water. And you know, it doesn't end well for the brooms, and it doesn't end well for the magicians. The only way through peace in this life, and peace comes from not giving in to sorcerers, okay? And this is kind of, I feel like a lot of people, if you say the word sorcerers, they're like, oh, like a magician, like with a robe and a blah, blah, blah. And it's like, half the people you listen to online, they don't even think they're sorcerers. I think they're sorcerers. They're getting people to do their bidding, and it's not in the interest of the people that are watching them. So whatever I put out on the internet, I don't want to convince people to work against their self-interests, you know? Jesus Christ, he wants sheep. He wants the sheep fed. He wants them peaceful. The people you listening to, are they treating you like they're sheep? Or are they treating you like a broom? So, yeah, I'll read the original German poem, not in German. I don't know German, but I'm going to read this Sorcerer's Apprentice poem. And I just hope whoever listens to this starts to think about how their emotions get pulled with their politicians of every variety. How, you know, I love my neighbor, but he thinks blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, we're getting manipulated, all right? So it's called The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Johann Wolfgang Guthro. I don't know how to say his last name. Gone for once the old magician with his countenance foreboding. I am now master, I'm technician. With all the ghosts must do my bidding. Know his incantation, spell and gestures too. But my mind's creation, wonders shall I do. Flood and passive with persistence from a distance. I want rushing, and with my last abundant massive, here into my basin gushing. Come, old broom, for work get ready. Dress yourself, put on your tatters. You're, I know, a servant steady and proficient in such matters. On two legs stand gravely. Have a head besides. With your old pale, now bravely, off to take the strides. Flood and passive, with persistence from a distance. I want rushing, and with my last abundant massive, here into my brain gushing, like a whirlwind here is going, to the stream, and then in like an engine, he is throwing, water for my use, flurry. Do I watch the steady? Not a drop is spilled, basin bowels ready. So, politicians like to use you. Influencers like to use you. You gotta watch out for how your emotions are getting manipulated against your self-interests. It's not in your self-interest to watch YouTube content over studying the scriptures. You know, we all need a break. We all need some levity and some comedy, but far too many people, they won't watch General Conference. They'll go watch their YouTube. They won't read their scriptures. They'll go watch their YouTube. They won't read church history books. You know, I've read church history books by non-members. There's a new great one about Joseph Smith. They'll listen to some podcast by some magician trying to convince them to destroy their lives. And for what? For an extra $10 a month for the magician, you know? You gotta look out for things. So that's the point of this video. Watch Fantasia. Watch the scene and then question yourself, am I hauling water for some magician? You know? And a lot of people, they'll be like, you haul water, you give 10% of your money to a church that doesn't need it. And it's like, yeah, I give 10% of my money to a church that doesn't need it. I don't care. The point of giving tithing, to me, has nothing to do with what the church does to it. You know, if I was running things, I'm not, but if I was running things, I would allow people just to light the money on fire, okay? Because the point is no one on this earth, not Elon Musk, not Bezos, no one on this earth thinks they have enough money. They always think you can get more money. If you're broke, you think you need more money. If you make $100,000 a year, you think you need more money. The only way to temper your impulses for greed and dominion is to give away a little bit of it, you know? And for me, it's better that they don't need the money. If they needed the money, then I would feel like, oh man, I love my church and they really need the money. It's better for me spiritually that they don't need the money. So I'm giving the money to my church. They don't need it. What are they going to do with it? I don't know. There's a lot of things the church does. I see them spend money on it and I'm like, that is dumb. I would not be spending money on that. What are you doing? But that's not my problem, you know? I would have just rather let the money on fire. I don't care. What they do with the money is on the shoulders of the people making those decisions, okay? And if they want my advice, I can give them my advice, but it's irrelevant what they do with the money. They could go give the money to anybody. I don't care what they do with the money. It's not my money anymore. The point of giving tithing is to show that I have enough money. I've got enough. And I gave away a tiny little bit just to show that the money doesn't rule me. Because the money, most people on this earth, money is their God. And if you give away a little bit of it, it shows that you're not completely subservient to money. Okay? That's why I give away my money. I don't give away my money as some retirement plan or rainy day fund that I can go ask my bishop to cover all my expenses. You know, I paid in. My whole life I paid into this and you're not going to give me my 10,000? I've given in 30,000. It's like, it's not an insurance policy. That's a side rant, but maybe it was entertaining. I don't know. Have a good day, everybody.